Really cool. Well, Kelsey, come say hello.
Hi, Kath.
There you are. Now you're on my screen. Hi.
Hi, my love.
So,
How are
oh
you?
my God, it's so fun to see you. So I'm going to pin you. I'm going to spotlight you and I'm going to spotlight me so that there we are. It's so nice to see you.
It's so good to be here. I wish you were in California next to me, but I'll take
I
you over
know.
the screen.
I know. And the truth is, because of COVID, it's not like I could have really been seeing you so much, but just
Sure.
knowing that you were 3 hours away all the time was great. And I did indeed get to see you many times, which was so nice. So, Kelsey Murphy is here. She is one of my closest friends. She is such an incredible person. She's really just so generous, and she's such an incredible coach. Her background, some of you may have heard her when she was on the podcast, but her background is that she was really pretty successful in the corporate world up near the sort of San Francisco Bay Area, working in some of the most sort of famous companies, doing a lot of big things in that scene in marketing and creative directing and things like that. And she wound up finding her way into coaching. And from there, she got introduced to Marie Forleo, and she was a big part of B School for quite some time. She was one of the sort of um, lead coaches in Marie's programs, and then she's been doing her own thing quite successfully for a while. And I'm so happy that you're here. This is the first time, this is our fourth round of Made to Do This. And this is the first time we've had a bonus session on coaching, which really it is definitely something that it's hard to believe we hadn't done, because so many of us want to be coaching and want to be pouring into people and knowing how to hold space. So thank you so much for being here. And now let's turn it over to you. So before we dive in to really looking, and I have so many good questions to ask you about how to build a successful life as a coach and all the different ways that you can coach between one-on-ones and courses and groups. Before we dive into that, why don't you just tell us a little bit about what made you want to step into coaching and what you find that you love so much about it?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And thank you for that lovely introduction. It's always so fun to hear someone reflect back to you what your experience was. I'm like, yeah, yes, yes.
That's
Wow.
me.
Yeah. You know that. Whoa. Um, Yeah. So, oh my goodness, my journey with coaching has been, so many highs and lows. Like you said, came back from my background was in this corporate world where I was checking all the boxes. I was doing all the things that I knew I needed to do. Being financially independent was always something I had to be financially independent. Like there was no other option. There was no other backing. It was like, you get out of college, you pay off your college loans and you get a job. It doesn't matter what it is.
Sure.
And so I started in the advertising world as like an assistant and just kind of worked my way up. And I loved the creative energy. Like I loved, there's so many conversations about copywriting and human psychology and understanding these
Yeah.
things that drew me into it. Right. And I loved it. But I would say probably within, I'd say 1 to 2 years of giving it like blood, sweat, and tears. Like I knew this is not what I was going to do for the rest of my life,
Right.
and it was a constant nagging feeling that something was off, no matter what I did. Like you were saying, I got to work with the most incredible brands. I was working with like Bono and Britney Spears and flying all over the world and doing these incredible things. And yet, even while on paper it looked so great, there was this tug saying, like, is this really what you want to do? Um, are you brave enough to try to figure out what you want to
Right.
do, and so I started exploring, like, okay, what potentially could I do? And I think that first exploration, you're looking in your inner circle, you're looking in your comfort area, and then you start kind of tiptoeing a little bit further out and being like, well, if I could do anything, and I started to hear about coaching. But the reality was is coaching just felt so woo-woo to me. It felt so different. It felt so unregulated. It felt like anyone could be a coach. And at that time, especially with my ego talking, but also like trying to intellectually reconcile what that would look like for me for a long-term business or future or stability, I was like, man, this just seems like a little bit too far outside like what I could really do. So I continue to explore everything else, like being a marriage and family therapist, going back and teaching and getting my MBA and everything. And then fast forward a couple months later, my husband and I were in London for the very first time, and I saw this random one day coaching seminar at this kind of in this like weird area of town, like crappy hotel lighting, kind of like a paper cup type of a thing. And Colin was like, "We're gonna go to the pub. We're gonna go do the double decker red bus. We're gonna do all these things." And I was like, "Well, I actually saw this thing online," and he was like, "Don't even, no, don't. What are you doing?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I have to explore it. It's this coaching world." And he was like, "I mean, okay, but like you've thought about that. You don't feel like it's your thing." And I'm like, I just am gonna go. I'll meet you at lunchtime. I'll just peace out if it's not my thing." And I showed up, and I will tell you, within 10 minutes, I knew this is my home. Like this is what I want to be talking to my future children about. This is what I want to be talking to the world about. Like, why are we not teaching this in school? We started talking about values and beliefs and goals and how that affects how we feel about ourselves, how that affects how we show up to other people, how that affects our relationships, how understanding and having this awareness of who we are can help us to relate to other humans. I'm like, dude, this can stop wars. If like I was just like,
It's true.
why are we not educating ourselves on this? And I fell in love with it then, and I had no idea what the path was going to look like. I didn't know, like, okay, so are you going to be a professional coach or a life coach or a personal coach or a relationship coach? I just knew this was something that I was meant to do. And so I started there. And from there, I went through the journey of like testing out what kind of coach I wanted to be, like a relationship coach. And I mean, I tested out so many areas of coaching, like threw so much spaghetti against the wall, and eventually started finding a groove, right? Eventually started finding clients I loved. And then like you said, kind of like fast forward to where I am, I was able to build this beautiful one-on-one coaching business that ended up scaling into courses and guesting and speaking at places like Twitter and Facebook and all of these things in the coaching world, right? It's like I had all those connections from a corporate standpoint, but I wanted to be connected with like the Twitters and the Facebooks and the Marie Forleos and all these really big names from like a coaching standpoint, from talking about like how to empower other humans to move forward, how to find that beautiful mix between logic and emotion, and help people to love who they are and to love their abilities and all of these things. And I wanted to do it from that. So I just took the risk, and I finally went to that dang hotel weird seminar and was like, I'm trying to avoid this, but coaching is my thing. Now I just need to solve how I'm going to make a lot of money doing that. And then
Yeah.
that was the next few years of my life.
And then
Was
you did. And
I
then you
did.
did.
I did. Yeah. It was amazing.
um, so let's start with where you started. You started one-on-one coaching, and I remember when we met and you just kind of had this, "Oh yeah, this is what I charge for a package. This is what the
Yeah.
minimum is." I'm like, this girl's a baller. Like she just gets paid. And then I remember, I would meet people and be like, "Do you know what you can make from coaching?" So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you started and what that looked like for people who want to begin? Where do
Yes.
you begin? How do you learn to price that? And what was possible for you, I think would be such a beautiful possibility then for them to see.
Absolutely. And it's so tricky as a coach, right? Because you're kind of thrown into, like I said, like an unregulated world. It's a lot of softness, and there's a lot of information about there, like from coaches that are saying like you can do it, but there's not a lot of how to do it, right? And of course, from like a coaching standpoint, like it starts within, right? Like it starts within with understanding what your gifts are, and having that internal conversation about just showing up for yourself, showing up for the world, saying yes,
Right.
so it absolutely starts within, but it's like, okay, cool. Once I check that box, what do I do now? Like, could I
Right.
have a little bit of structure? Right. So, so when I started, I was very much one-on-one, and I wanted to do one-on-one because it can be highly lucrative. I think like the average, I think PricewaterhouseCoopers did a study through the International Coaching Federation on like what the average right now is. I think it was for 2020, but it's like the average per hour is like around $230 per hour. And that's an average, right? So it's like if you are stepping up a little bit above average, like the amount that you can make per hour is pretty significant starting out, right? So I knew intellectually I could do that. For me, I think in order to feel really true and authentic, I had to believe that I could that I could make that while doing something I loved. So that was the internal
Yeah.
journey that I went on. Right? It was like I could coach people on how to get a job in advertising. Right? I could coach people on anything in my advertising world, start my own kind of freelance business, and make a lot of money. But in the beginning, I had to have the conversation of like, do you want to be doing that? Or do you want to be coaching people on other things like, like business, or like the empowerment of moving forward in your business, or understanding your true values as a woman, and how that, like it was like, and there was a lot of push pull. So I had to do a lot of testing. So I did a lot of testing in the beginning, and I would give myself, I would say you need to do 3 to 5 pro bono sessions, just like 20-minute or 30-minute sessions, not like these crazy long packages. But I was like, go do 3 30-minute pro bono sessions on one topic. Like choose one topic to do. Don't do them on just like being a broad coach. Like it was like, I'm going to do relationship coaching for helping people that feel unhappy in their marriage for 3 sessions. Right. And I will tell you, when you go focus like that and you do a 3 session test, you have an instant understanding of whether this is something that you want to put your whole blood, sweat, and tears into. Right. And so I couldn't say, oh, I'm going to choose this direction for the next year. For me, that felt like too scary. I couldn't commit to that because I didn't have enough, honestly, data to know whether I was going to like it or not. I didn't have enough
Right.
experience. So I would always devise ways for me to do small tests to get the information to decide, okay, once I did a 3 session test, then I would go out and then I would go kind of like whole hog into it. The beauty of that when you're first starting out is that if you do like a 3 session test and you're good at it, you can then offer for those people to come into your paid coaching program, right? So that is how I got a lot of my first clients as I started doing pro bonos. And I was very clear with them up front, like, hey, I am doing some beta testing on this specific topic. I'm going to give out, some 30-minute free coaching sessions on this, or helping your relationships, or finding a career you love. Is that something you would be interested in? And they're like, I mean, yeah, free coaching. That sounds awesome. I'm like, great. I'm like, all I'm asking for is a testimonial at the end, like, or just let me feedback. And then if you want, I will absolutely let you know about my paid program that's going to roll out next month, but like there's zero pressure. Right. But the amount of people that went from that free session into a paid program was significant. Like my conversion was incredibly high. And that's how you know, like, okay, I'm doing something right. I'm being helpful. Like what I teach people now is like how to structure those calls, right? Like, okay, like, you've got the coaching bones in you, but like, how do you do a 30-minute call? How do you do a 60-minute call? Like, how do you structure your clients, right? But I always tell people, like, you don't even need that before you confirm in your brain that this is something you want to do. You just need to go out and test it.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. It's so helpful, and it makes so much sense, and it takes the fear away when you're offering it for free and you give yourself this chance to see if you like it. And then of course, if people are interested, why wouldn't they want to do it now? Because they've already gotten a
Yes.
taste of it. So Catherine asked in the chat, 3 to 5 with the same person or 3 to 5 in general? Was it like you were
Ooh.
offering 5 people a 30-minute session, or you were offering to do 3 sessions with?
That's a great question. Thank you, Catherine. And anybody else has questions, throw them in the chat. I'm so happy to be interactive and like make this actually helpful for you. So it depends on like where you're starting. If you're like, I've never been a coach, I've never coached anyone in the entire world, I would say I would do 3 to 5 different people. like, right, on one topic. Because what you'll end up learning, and I'm sure Kathy, you go over this at some point, is that there's usually a specific type of person that you love working with, right? Like there's even if it's not like demographically one kind of person, there's someone that has like similar mindset, values, beliefs, right? So you're going to find that type of person. So when you do 3 to 5 different people on one topic, it helps you to learn that. I would say if you're kind of level 2, where you're like, I've already done kind of like some free coaching, or I've had enough conversations, then I would say you can go into offering someone a month of coaching for free. But in that month, I would probably only do 2 to 3 sessions for that one person. But that could be your next step, where you say, hey, I'm going to do like the month of April is I'm going to take on 3 pro bono clients. You all get 3 sessions. We work on this one specific topic. And then I will offer you, like if you'd like to jump into my paid program, you can, et cetera, et cetera.
I love it. It's so brilliant. And it just goes back to what we always talk about, which is ABG, always be giving, always be generous, and build the well before you're thirsty. And this is exactly why you're so brilliant. Kelsey is literally, if I had to come up with 3 words to describe you, one of them would be generous, and then beautiful and kind. But generous, because whenever we're together, whenever we're voxing, whenever we sit together, you're always like, oh, no, I love being able to, I'll be like, no, what about you? And you're like, no, I really love being able to listen to you. This was so fun. How else can I serve you? How else can I help you? There's never like oh, cool. Yeah. Well, it would be so nice if what you could do for me is blah, blah, blah. So this idea that the way that you begin is, of course, you don't have to start to feel stressed that you have to go sell a stranger on an offer. You offer a person an offer for free, and then you give of yourself. And then if it works, you say, this seems like it's working. Do you want to continue on? Now let's talk about this piece. When you say at that point, you would let them know about your paid programs, what did that look like? What I knew about what you were doing was there was a couple different things that by the time you and I met, you had going on. There was one-on-one things and there was already group things. So what did those first paid programs look like? Were they one-on-one retainers or were they groups, and how did you structure those?
Yeah. Okay. So good question. So my goal was always to go into groups, right? Like my goal is always to scale. And I think that one-on-one was really important for me. It's incredibly lucrative. One-on-one is. You can also be very flexible with your timing, right? So if you're like side hustling or freelancing, you can choose those hours for your one-on-one client, right? So but the goal was always to go coaching because I always wanted to scale, right? Like I knew the power of scaling, and I love the idea of bringing everyone into a group, a group environment. There's something magical that happens there, right? So that was always the goal. But I started just with one-on-one, and they were 3-month packages. So for a big reason, I never did one-off calls ever. Like people could never purchase a one-off call for me because the type of person I wanted to work with, they were in it kind of for the long haul, right? Like they weren't like
Yeah.
I'm a one and done. I just want to get it in and out. They were someone that I was like, hey, we're going to do this together. I'm going to be your person. Like this is a big deal what we're going to do. I wanted it to feel like a big deal. I wanted it to feel like an investment. And in the beginning, the investment was much lower than what it is now, clearly, right? But I wanted them to be committed for 3 months. Like, so that was really important to me. Plus, clearly, retainer work is incredibly important. I did not want to be hustling
Right.
every month to resell myself. I'm not a seller. Like, it's not in my bones, like I am a coach through and through. I want to sit over a cup of tea or wine and talk about deep, meaningful things, right? Like, the idea of consistently putting myself out there to sell was exhausting. So,
Right.
3-month retainers was the minimum. But very quickly after my very first year, I felt confident enough that I saw enough themes that I could start a group program. So very quickly, I started a group program. The first one that I did was called Find Work You Love. And it was for everybody that were in 9 to 5s and they wanted to figure out what they wanted to do next. And it was everything from talking about like setting up your LinkedIn profiles and resumes, like a very corporate aspect of it, to also doing the passion work, right? Of like, what are you passionate about? To also exploring, like, could you potentially start like a little thing of freelance or something like that? And it was kind of like almost like a little bit of a mastermindy program, but it was literally group coaching, right? Like I did maybe one small workbook, but I did it that week of, and I just showed up for those group calls. And I think it was 6 weeks, and it was the first time I've ever experienced like how powerful that could be, because I was always like, man, like I know I can help people one on one, but could I really deliver the same kind of effect in a group? And it
Amazing.
was like significant, right? Like, and so that first group program was my kind of like understanding and beta testing. And of course, the price was incredibly low because it was me testing it out, right?
Yeah.
So then I took that, all of that stuff, and I made it into my first little course. And then I just started doing a lot of that. And I feel like that's what you constantly are doing as an entrepreneur. You learn that you got to go out there and test it and see if you like it, see if other people like it. And then you test it, you almost like breathe lighter because you're like, okay, I have so many more answers now. And then the second time you run it, it's just like, off to the races.
Oh, it's so great. And yeah, the longer that I've been in the world of self-development, I just have seen for my own self as a person who's participating and also running things, that group collective dynamic, the studies show just the power of that collective.
Yes.
We witness other people having their breakthroughs or their struggles, and we exponentially are growing by just being in a space amongst other people. When I went to onsite for a week, we have 7 days, that's it, and it's a $7,000 program, and you're put in these little groups, and you think to yourself, oh, by the time they explain how the week is going to go, you go, oh, we're only going to talk about my family struggle and my own challenges for one of these portions of one of these days. And that dynamic of being a part of people's psychodrama and watching them, by the end, they say, trust the process. Didn't you see how much you got out of being witness? And you realize, I think I got more out of being witness than when I was actually in that spotlight. And it's powerful. It's so powerful. And I really want people to get that, because we often think that we have to do it for other people. Like we are there as a coach to give answers, to give advice. And it's so much about the space we create. And I want to talk to you about that, because you're better at that than almost anyone I know. And you know that we know a lot of the same people.
Yep.
And Kelsey, like you're just such a ninja at creating the kind of space, and asking the kinds of questions where people just go, oh my God, I just found it. Thank you for helping me to come upon it. So I want to talk about how you structure and set up your coaching and the kinds of questions, just as a little introduction. Before we get there, I think people might want to know from a concrete perspective, if they were going to offer one-on-one coaching and those 3-month packages, where is a decent place to start pricing wise if you're starting out?
Yep. Yeah, I love it. And I'm keeping my eye on a lot of these comments. So I'll hit a couple of your questions in this response, I feel like.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, when you're first starting out, like I definitely like to do kind of market research and validation at first. And this is assuming you are doing some type of coaching that truly already has market demand out there, right? Like you've gone out there, you've seen like I saw a lot of people in here that were like, oh, Kelsey, like that program you just said is what I want to do. It's like, sweet, I'm your first part of like market validation that people will pay for it, like, so you want to find people out there that are doing similar things or solving similar problems or delivering on a similar promise, and just understand kind of what the going market rate is. You're going to see a lot of different pricing. And honestly, a lot of coaches don't put pricing on their website. So you will have to call people up and literally say the words like, hey, I was wondering if you'd mind sharing your rates. Like, what do you charge? What are your packages? Like, I'm just trying to understand this landscape a little bit more. But once you do that, you will get a general sense of range of where you feel comfortable putting yourself. And when it comes to pricing, I will always say, like, I like envision a ladder, right? Like you're climbing the ladder and you're like, okay, it's $400. Okay, it's $500. Okay, it's $600. And you keep climbing till you feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? And then you're like
Mm,
looking down and you're like, you're out of your comfort zone. You know, you're in your stretch zone where it's where exciting things happen. It's where the adventure happens, you know, but this it feels a little nervous, you know. And then you try the next ring. And if when you go to the next ring, it's like $700, you're like, dude, I'm in my fire zone. I am uncomfortable. This does not feel right. It's like, cool, go right back down to your stretch zone. Like stay in that stretch zone. That's where you should feel comfortable with your pricing. And then I would say get 3 clients in that stretch zone and then reevaluate. Like, see how you feel then.
great.
Because after you get 3 clients, they've said yes, you're kind of validating that market price. You can then make a decision like, do I want to go higher? Because eventually, as a coach, you start to go higher, but you start to attract a different target market, right? A different human, like once you start to get up into certain price ranges. And that may shift how much you really like it or not. Because then you may be like, you know, I really love this person right here, but the only way for me to make the money I want to is now to go group. Right. And that's where you start sticking with that. And you instead of going vertical, kind of you go horizontal, right? You widen it up a bit. So that's kind of like a long way to a ham sandwich of not answering how much do you charge people. So I will just give you my experience. I mean, I will say about 7 years ago or so when I first started doing it, my first pricing was $495 a month. And that was for 3 coaching sessions and it was for 3-month packages. So that was my absolute first starting lowest thing. And I jumped very quickly to $1,000 a month. So I went from about $500 a month to $1,000 a month, and I would sell it in 3 months for $3,000. Like that was the package that I stuck with in the very beginning. And then quick as like I said, as I got about 3 clients at a time, I got 3 clients, I kind of checked that off. I started to slowly percentage and notch it up about 15 to 20% each time until I did reach a place where I was not loving kind of the clientele I was working with. And that's when I started going wider and doing group coaching. And I saw Michelle's asking what was included in that package. So at that time, it was 3 coaching sessions for 50 minutes. And then I was available to them over email within a 48-hour period. Now, Kathy will know this about me. I'm incredibly strict about my boundaries. I really like to be with my kids and I really like to be with my husband. And I don't work on Fridays. I don't work on Tuesdays. Right now, Tuesdays, I just chill with my little 1-year-old Danny to do absolutely nothing and just like play while McKenna's off at childcare. And then Fridays, I'm with Danny and McKenna, just the 2 of us, so that I really do a lot of my deep work on Mondays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I knew I always only wanted to work about 3 days a week, still making as much money as I possibly could, you know, and giving my gifts and serving people. So I was very particular about my packages. They literally only were 3 coaching sessions a month, which ended up chunking down to 2. It ended up being 2 a month. And then they would get me if they needed me over email. So but I made it very clear to them, like after those 50-minute coaching calls, you will feel 100% supported. Like that my goal is that you're 100% supported. That is the number one focus and priority here. So I focused much more on the benefits of working with me versus the features, right? So after they felt like I could help them get to the place that they needed to, whether that was emotionally or confidence or empowerment, or it was actually from a business standpoint, I'm going to help you, you know, get to this place from an income standpoint with your business. I made them confident about that. Like, that's what we will do. Like the features, the amount of times that we talk, like that was a secondary piece of the conversation.
It's incredible. And I've been so blessed to be one of Kelsey's friends. And there's so many times where I have said to you, okay, this is what's going on in the business. And then literally 13 minutes, I'm like, you just made me $1 million. How did I not see that? And you're like, oh, that was so easy. You said this, this, and this. So why wouldn't you double down here? That doesn't feel good to you. That does feel good to you. And because that's working, why wouldn't you spend more energy on that and be more of like, you know, essentialism, this, and this. And I'm like, Kelsey, how do you see this? How do you get this? That's happened literally like 6 times. And I'm like, what what just happened? You're so good at it. She's just so, so, so good at it. I'm so grateful to you. I've literally just had the direct experience of seeing myself get into alignment and know what I needed to do in my business through a conversation in like no time at all. So I hope that that's helping you guys to hear. And Kelsey and I have other friends who are mutual friends who've done this kind of work, and they have gone from $1,000 a month to $10,000 a month and 3-month retainers. And I've seen them go into $18,000 a month. Like, you won't believe what's out there. And again, they're not looking for 1,000 clients, right? They're usually, the reason they get sold out is because, again, it's, I have space for 3 people, period. And so it's not difficult to find 3 people at different price points who have the need to be seen. So just really hear that, really take that in. And then you did go into starting group programs and then courses. So when you started the group program, find the work that you want to do, find the work that you love. How did you know how to price a group program and a 6-week situation?
Yeah. So I mean, I started with what I wanted to make, right? Like I started with the amount of money that I wanted to make, and then I reverse engineered that, because and not that that's a limiting belief way to start, but that was what I felt comfortable starting with. I'm like, okay, if I want to make, $5,000 in an hour for this one group that I'm going to do, how many people then
Right.
do I need to join, right? And then it's like, well, if you did, I mean, math is not my strong suit, but like for $5,000, like you could get 5 people and they could all charge $1,000, or you could get 10 people and it's $500, right? Or you could get 20 people and it's
Right.
$250, right? Like, so I kind of reverse engineered based off of that, as well as going back and checking out the marketplace. And the interesting thing, I think, when you start doing group coaching is that you can start looking at how are people pricing group packages, but also how are they pricing one-on-one packages
Mm-hmm.
to solve the same problem. Because that is it. That's what I'm helping you do, is figure out, like, you're stuck. You're feeling like, I know I'm meant for something more. I know that I'm not in the job that I want right now, but like, I don't know what to do and how to move forward. And as a coach, what I had learned was it's a combination of coaching and structures, right? Like the way that I work, the way that my brain operates is truly half emotional, half logical, like, and it's intellectual. Like I will poke holes in things where I'm like, that's why coaching was so hard for me in the beginning. Cause I'm like, this feels so lofty, softy. Like I like this, like, where's the structure? Where's the answers? Right. And as I've done so much more of my emotional work, I recognize it is rooted in here, right? It is rooted in this place.
Yep.
So I've been able to lead now from that place and see people and hear them and understand what it is they're truly trying to get to. And that is my gift, right? That's my natural gift. It's kind of like you were saying, when we get on the phone, I believe intellectually in simplifying, because we only have so many hours in a day, right? And if you look at your life and you want to be the type of person that only works 3 days a week, but you're making X amount of dollars and you're having all these experiences, then we need to simplify to create that. And too often right now, with social media and shiny object syndrome, like, we have such a hard time not going after all these opportunities, right? So my job intellectually is to simplify, but emotionally, my job is to show up and is to see what is the true root, what is the true thing you're going for here. Like, we're looking at 17 things we're trying to solve for here, but I hear one thing. What is that one thing you really want? And if that's the one thing, then we solve for that one beautiful
Mm.
thing. And so my job is to hold the space for someone to ask themselves, what is that one thing? And then I can ask them questions and to help evoke that, right? Like, my job as a coach is to say, is this important, or is this?
Yeah.
Like, I heard you mention this word. Tell me more about that.
Yep.
I want to, and then I allow them to show up and be like, no, 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 actually, it's not that. It's this. And I'm like,
Mhm.
there's the first step of clarity, right?
Yep.
Now we simplify to focus around one piece right there.
Yes. And I want to dive into that because that's really the crux of it, right? Really getting the technology of what helps people to get to the answer that's within them. So I
Yes.
want to go there. Before we do, some people, I want to acknowledge the question. There was a question that had to do with insurance, but also qualifications. And I
Yeah.
wanted to throw this at you because I just think it's fascinating how people get so hooked on coaching certifications
Yes.
when my coach, not that I pay him, but he's like one of the go-to mentors in my life, Seth Godin. He's got no certification to be a
Mm-hmm.
coach. He's just a master at what he does. And I can think of 14 other people who I go to who have helped me along the path or who have huge platforms who that's not how they come into this world, whether it's Glennon Doyle or Liz Gilbert or Amy Porterfield or Jasmine Starr. So many people who are able to help people in their business or their life, respectively, are not hung up on that. So how do we handle that issue? And how has that sat with you? I think that you might have an interesting perspective on it. We've talked
Yeah.
about it
Oh,
before.
I do.
Yeah.
I do, girl.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. So now that you guys have a little bit of a background of my personality, you probably know in my brain, I was like, how many certifications can I get? And where can I be certified? And where can I check those boxes? Because in my brain, like that was going to make me more legitimate, right?
Okay.
Like I was at the bar being like, yeah, I'm the advertising director for Nintendo and Elizabeth Arden, and I just got off this fancy trip with Britney. It was like intellectually and from an ego standpoint, I was checking the boxes of like, I am legit, right? To go to the bar the next day and be like, I'm a life coach. People are like, oh, okay. Like, like I already was having those like conversations in my head, like, how do I reconcile this? Right. So, I struggled with that a lot in the beginning. And I come at this from, or I ended up having a very unique experience that I think will be helpful. But my true opinion on certifications is that you are going to provide value when you get someone a transformation. Like you are a coach when you get someone a transformation
Write it
or a
down. Write
result,
it down.
right?
So good.
Like it's the result or transformation. And that can be everything from an emotional transformation to a financial result, right? It can be soft or hard. So that is when you are a coach, when you can actually create that. When Marie Forleo asked me to come on and to help her B schoolers, did she ask for a certification? Absolutely not. Did I need to be certified? Nope. When I went and spoke for Twitter and Facebook, did they ask for certification? Nope. Did I need to be certified? Absolutely not. When I made my first 1,000, my first 10,000, not a single person asked for my certifications, right? Not a single person asked for that. What they wanted to know was how could I help them and how was I going to do that, right? Like what was the problem I could solve for them? How was I going to move them forward in their life? And they wanted to know more about that, right? And I got to share like, well, this is how I've done it for other people. Well, this is my opinion on it. Well, this is the method that I want to take. Well, this is the way that my perspective on it, right? So the more I started to talk, that is what validated me, right? That is what, when I was at the bar, it was no longer like, I'm a life coach. It was like, well, I actually help people who are struggling to figure out where they want to go in their career, find those next steps rooted in who they are and where they want to be the next 20 years of their life. So they are in a spot where they're making more money than they were before, but they're also doing something that they love, that they can walk out of their house at the end of the day and feel excited about. And people were like, oh, well, that feels legit. And I'm like, well, that feels good saying, so that is my opinion. Now, did I get certified? I did. I did get certified, but it wasn't before. Like I got a lot of my jobs and I made a lot of my money before I got certified. I went in though to try to get certified in different small certifications of things that I was curious about, like positive psychology, like emotional intelligence, things that I wanted to go in. I wanted to understand the International Coaching Federation better, the whole ACC, PCC, MCC like situation. I wanted to understand that. And at that point, I had notched up kind of enough coaching hours to be able to easily get the certification. So I ended up getting it. I will tell you, I don't have it anymore. Like it's outdated. I have not renewed it. Like that is not a part of my practice now. But continuing education is a part of my practice. So every single year I am investing money and time into continuing education. Sometimes that's a mastermind with a group of women I'm in love with that I want to be connected with, that are going to grow me emotionally as well as intellectually and professionally. Sometimes that is a course, sometimes that's, other small little deep dives on specific
Yep.
subjects I want to learn about. But at the end of the day, I really believe certifications are about getting that transformation or result.
Oh, and it's so huge because how many people have given such a bad name to the industry because they have a certification
Yes.
and they're not worth their salt, right? There's
Hmm.
nothing happening other than the fact that they took so and so's 14-day thing, or somebody told them that they are worthy now of having the stamp. But what are they actually made of, right? What can they actually do? Where my very good friend Susie Moore, she's like, I wish I could tattoo it on my forehead. I have no qualifications, none, zero, didn't even go to college, like barely completed high school. She gets people massive results. People just being around her feel lifted. She has a huge practice. She has best-selling, New York Times best-selling books. She is just it, right? And it's also about, like, if you've gotten the results for yourself, right? If you've already lost 100 pounds because you figured out a way to take care of yourself emotionally, or eat a different way, and you want to help somebody get that result, do it. I think the reason we talked about Amy Porterfield, like, she's gotten that result. She built her own
Hmm.
course. She helped people build courses. So she's like, I'm going to teach you how to do this thing that I've done. Same thing with someone who's teaching podcasting. Same thing with someone who's going to teach you how to make more money. Have they gotten that result for themselves? Have they gotten that result for other people? I love that you said it so clearly. The transformation is what matters. If I'm able, and then you don't have fans. You have raving fans. And people don't care that you went to Jimmy John's training certification. They care that you helped their friend in this way, right?
Yeah.
All right. So now let's talk about the spiritual technology, the emotional technology. When you're stepping into conversation with people, what are some of the bones to how you hold space? How you said before, here's how I would set up a 30-minute call. I kind of have that in mind. Let's look at that so that we have some compass of, like, what it even looks like from your perspective. What's your process when you begin with someone? Where are you hoping to start with them? And where are you leading them as the conversation goes on?
Yeah, I love that. So I call it a coaching container. So I believe that when you become really aware of the results, you can get somebody, you become a really great communicator. You can take those things, but you want to hold them in a coaching container, right? Like, you want to hold this, and it's kind of holding the space. It's whether your coaching container or your coaching conversation is 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 60 minutes, a half day session. There's a container in which you want to hold that space for people. And so I kind of break it down into three sections. The first section is the place where you get clarity on where you want to go. Like, what is the true desire or result? And this potentially is the most important section, because, and often people are like, okay, cool. So I'm just going to say, what do you want to focus on today? And someone's going to come to the table and be like, well, like, I want to, I need to find more clients, right? I need to find more clients. I'll use that because I do a lot of business coaching right now. I want to find more clients. And I'm like, okay, cool. So give me a lay of the land. Tell me, tell me a little bit more about that. Let's really define what that looks like to you. And they're like, okay, well, I'm focusing on my email list, and I want to build my email list, and I want to get the right opt-in. And they're focusing on all these things because they want to, like, build their clients. Right. And I'm like, well, tell me, what's important to you about getting these 5 more clients? And we talk about income, right? And we talk about the ease and income and all of these different pieces. And sometimes what we will discover is what they are looking for is more time with their kids, a higher amount of money per hour, and making that process simplified so that they aren't hustling to post 17 things on social media every single day, right? Where if we hadn't clarified what their true desire was, I would have solved for, well, here's how to grow your email list, right? Like, well, here's how to create a great opt-in. When the reality might be like, oh, actually, we can notch up your prices a bit. We can get you in front of a dedicated audience in 30 minutes. And then that can be the funnel to bring people in, that you can create a small group program, or you can start to have more one-on-one people at a higher rate, or whatever it is, right? So we can solve so much faster and quicker once we get to the root of what people are truly, truly looking for. So that's the first piece of the coaching conversation. And I think that is actually a big piece that people miss, because they skip right into solving mode, right? Like we go like, okay, what's the problem? You want more email people, or you need to, it's taking you so long to write your newsletters, right? Like it's so long. Okay, well, let's talk about strategies, time management strategies, and we're jumping right into problem solving mode when we haven't taken enough time to create the space in the very beginning to understand what is the true struggle, what's the root of the problem. And it may not be that they need 17 time management tools. The root of the problem might be like they feel like an imposter. Like, why am I writing to all of these people if I'm actually not that qualified? And so then you can clarify in the beginning. You're like, okay, so would it be then helpful to spend time working on time management situations, or should we spend time working on why you're worthy? Like, why should you be writing to these people? Like, if you don't believe it, they're not going to believe it. So if we walked out of this conversation today and you felt 100% confident that you are the one that's supposed to be writing these humans, would that be valuable to you? And then people are like, well, yeah, that would be great. And I'm like, that's our coaching. That's our conversation today, right? Whether it's 10 minutes or 60 minutes, then you have a better focus. And then you move into the coaching aspect of it, the discovery part, right? So like, now let's have some discovery around this. Like, let's understand this. You go deeper, you ask the questions, you hold the space, you see them, you acknowledge their pain, you acknowledge their dreams, you acknowledge their fears, and you create a discovery part of the conversation that allows them to have awarenesses and ahas they might not have had. So already, if you can envision a coaching conversation gone wrong, they're like talking about their newsletter, you're into the middle of the conversation, in the meat of it, talking strategies, and the whole time they're like, this person doesn't even know that these aren't going to help me, because I'm not, I'm not even the person that's supposed to be writing this. Who am I? So that first part is crucial, like truly understanding what the focus is, right? Truly having it, I almost call it like a contract. Like, you have an agreement, like a contract together, where you like, this is what we really care about. This is what's going to be the most beneficial use of our time today. And then you go into this discovery place where you do, that's the true coaching. That's where you use your 20 coaching techniques and skills, and you see and you firm and you ask the right questions, and you challenge, or you push a little bit harder where you see that they need it, or you back off where you see that they just need to breathe, or you create silence. You just, there's so many coaching techniques you use in that discovery piece. And then you close at the end by truly allowing, and this will change for different industry, but you truly allow them to reflect on like what it is they want to take away. Like, what is your takeaway from this call? Because what their takeaway is may be very different from what your takeaway is. So you want to wrap up and close a beautiful call by saying, okay, so it sounds like you X, Y, and Z. Here's your homework for the week. Go on and on your way, right? But it's like, hold on, this was their experience, right? Like, they had the ahas that you don't even know about. Like, if you're a great coach, the magical ahas and the magical awarenesses and things, like, it is incredible what's happening inside of them. And as a coach, our job is truly to believe that your coachee or your client, they are their best teacher. They know their absolute wisdom inside of them. Your job is to pull that out. So at the very end, your job is to hold enough space to say, okay, now after that whole conversation, what are you taking with you through the week, right? And then they come back to you, and I will get off these crazy business conversations where people are paying me tens of thousands of dollars for the hour, and we'll get off these calls and they're like, yeah, my takeaway is I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to call my mom. And I'm like, all right, we talked a lot about income strategy, but like, and they're like, no, but what I realized is it doesn't matter how much I make. I feel disconnected from my mom. And that is truly what I'm craving right now. And I'm trying to make all this money so I can fly her out here to see me. But like, I just miss my mom. So I'm going to get off this phone call. That's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call her. And I'm like, okay, that was it. That was the moment. So you create these beautiful, like kind of like three pillars, right? It's a opening and a true focus. It's a discovery and the awareness piece. And then it's closing by allowing that person to reflect back to you. Now, this is where I go from here. And you can help them if you're more tangible and you're a business coach. You're like, okay, let's talk about the strategies of that. But as an emotional or a life coach, you're often just allowing them to close the loop of that conversation, to close that container, and to say, like, this is what I'm taking from this, and now I move on to my life.
It's so good, Kelsey. Type a one in the chat if that felt so good and clarifying to hear that container. Yes, it's so good. And really, that's what I've sort of envisioned. And with this team, this incredible team that I have, this is what we do and made to do this, right? Like, we are so crystal clear of what you just said, that you guys are your own best teacher. And so I do everything I do in this program is to bring you home to that truth. And I know, because it's there and because you are also brilliant. And I know that if I continue to foster a space where you feel loved and you feel challenged to call upon the gifts that you have, you're going to lead yourself right to where you want to go, and then to just continue to hold that space of possibility. And so in your group program, Kelsey, how did that change for you, that three-pronged approach, when you're putting that inside of a container of a 6-week program? What's most important to you? What's most important to you in terms of what you feel will be the glue that will actually help them leave a group program with what they need?
Yeah. Well, when you look at the group program, and I just want to acknowledge all the ones that I'm seeing in here, Kathy. You've cultivated the most amazing group. I can tell. Like I
Oh,
can like
100%. They're the
it's
best.
amazing.
Absolutely.
And you have this same gift that I talk about. So like that is very much what
Thanks.
you are doing with this group. So I mean, I think that group programs, you want to almost ask yourself the same thing. I ask myself, I coach myself through that same system when I'm thinking about how I want to set up a group call, right? Like what truly like is the root of what you want to promise them? Like what do you want them to walk away with? Like what would be the transformation or the result that would make this 6-week or this 6-month program worthwhile for them, right? And I get really clear on that, and I do a lot of soul searching. Like is it that you want them to walk away with their first 5 clients? And like, yes, often that is, but it's like, but if they walk away with their first 5 clients, but they don't have a true belief and understanding of who they are and why they're important in the world and why they need to show up and what their gifts and strengths are, because they've just never had the moment to take a step back and breathe and explore it, then the job isn't done, right? Like, so when I look at my group program and like, am I putting live calls in there? Am I bringing guests in? What kind of structure am I getting them? Like I think about what is the true ultimate kind of like end result, right? What do I want them to walk away saying, right? And then I create the space for that discovery and reflection, right? It's like if I just give them a course and there's no place, whether it's in a workbook or it's in a call, however you deliver it is up to you and your personality and what you like. But you have to create the space for that discovery and that reflection. Like, this is what I learned. This is the aha that I had about myself. And this is what I'm walking away with, right? So you do the same thing, you open and close that loop for them.
Absolutely. And that's why I created this program this way. And I know that you have a similar heart and approach, because I saw so much information in the world and tons of videos in the world. And I didn't see a container to make space for people to process, for people to have a space held for the reflection. And that to me is the magic. That's the magic. And so, of
And
course,
it's not done very often, to be honest. Like there's a
it's not.
lot. No, it's not, because I think people are really focused on just the results part, just the results. And they're assuming that all we want is to check the boxes, where I don't think we just want to be held. I think we do want to check boxes based off our personalities. But if you don't create the space to be held and to have discovery and to have reflection, then it's not sustainable, like true deep change that's happening, right? It's not sustainable, true deep transformation. It's checking a box. So you really do have to have both of those pieces.
And I wish that more, maybe I don't, because it leaves such a space for people like you and me. But it's interesting how so many people who have a platform, they understand this in the sense of they get that the evergreen thing clearly doesn't work as well as they want it to, because they show up live to launch and they know that that live launch is a glue, that intimacy, that in person. So they get it in terms of selling people into a program.
Right.
But the fact that they don't then get that then the program itself, if there was a more living, breathing, dynamic, interactive component, would be so much more of a transformation for people. And maybe they don't want to get that, because the truth be told, I do these programs, they're 12 weeks. I show up 4 to 6 hours a week, right? Every call is like 2 hours, sometimes it's a little less, but it's about that. And then we do bonus calls. And of course, it'd be easier for me to hire a videographer and spend a few $1,000s and shoot videos and then just be like, peace.
Yep.
I wouldn't feel alive. I wouldn't feel like myself. And I know it wouldn't work. I know it wouldn't work. It's the back and forth. It's the living, breathing, dynamic, transformative container of being in the space of people and throwing something out and then saying, hey, now reflect on that. Now talk to each other about that. Now people go, oh my God, that was amazing. And you're just giving them the space to process. So I love this so much. I want to make time for you guys to ask some questions that you might have that we didn't cover. So I want you to put that in the chat. And as you're putting those questions in the chat, I want to ask you a couple questions that I saw. One question was, how did you get those initial first few clients? Where did you go with that? Where did you put that offer out?
Yeah. So, I mean, the beauty and the curse of, I think, potential clients is that there's so many people in the world with problems that they're looking for someone to help them solve, right? So there is a lot of potential clients out in the world that you can serve, that you can help them with the transformation and results. Where you find them is definitely going to be based off your industry. So I won't give a big blanket statement, but for me, where I found them, I really was looking to help people that were unfulfilled in their current 9 to 5 and were trying to figure out what they wanted to do next. So I reached out to my entire network of friends and family. And I have this like very scripted email I give to all of my clients. And it was very much like, hey, how are you? Like, want to reconnect. But I also want to share something really exciting that I've been doing. I've started a coaching business, and every single time I have more conversations on this topic, it lights me up. And I realize how much I truly love speaking to people about X, whatever your thing
Love
is,
that. You're basically just
like,
sharing your enthusiasm.
yes. Yeah.
Genuinely.
You approach it with passion. Like people are like, I don't want to pitch my friends and family. And I'm like, well, do not, don't pitch your friends and family. That sounds horrible. Like, show up and share something you're excited about with them and let them know every time I have these conversations, I'm reminded about how much I love it. And then you can say to them, and so I wanted to ask, do you know anyone that would get a kick out of this? Is there anyone in your network that you think would think this is rad? If so, would you mind just forwarding this email to them? And I'm always throw a piece in there, like, clearly, if this applies to you, hit me up. But you're not reaching directly out to them to sell them. You're reaching out to them to say, hey, I'm so excited about this. If there's anyone that would like be as excited as I am about nerding out about this conversation, like, forward this along. I will tell you the amount of people that just responded directly back and was like, yeah, me, like, let's get on the call, like that. It was so much easier than I expected it to be, but yeah, like, create yourself like a little template, like a little structure, and it takes the pressure off of that.
So good. So imposter syndrome, Kelsey, is coming up a lot. I'm sure you can see it as well. So the same way of saying, I'm afraid I don't have all the answers. Okay. I don't feel like I'm an expert, no college degree. Some of it's about finding clients, asking money for something I've always done for free. Okay. So that's maybe a pricing, sort of feeling worthy around pricing. So there's the feeling worthy thing is what's a through line here, but part of it is in terms of having the answers, and part of it is in being able to charge for something. So not qualified, not qualified. So it's that pricing piece of receiving. And it's also the imposter syndrome around what if I don't have the answers? And now I said, type this in if you're someone who feels that this is what you want to do. So this is important, right? Because now we're looking at a group of people who we've all gotten to know, who have beautiful hearts, who want to be doing this, and they're still feeling tremendous imposter syndrome around something they feel called to do. So, Kelsey, how do we work with that? And specifically, as a person who wants to step into coaching, how do you work with imposter syndrome? I'm sure you had some of those thoughts when you were beginning.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Absolutely. And I'm seeing so many beautiful comments. Thank you guys for being so open and just kind of sharing
Yeah.
yourself. It's the comments are beautiful in here. People are being really, I mean, this is an incredible space. Um, you know, my as much as I am a coach, like my brain, I struggle with leading from my heart versus my intellect, right? Like, so I, from an imposter syndrome standpoint, I there's a lot of internal work that I do myself, right? There's a lot of mantras. There's recognizing the internal dialogue that's negative. There's recognizing my inability to celebrate who I am and my wins, right? So there's a lot of internal work that I do on a daily basis. And just so you guys know, this doesn't often change. Like as you grow into your career, you're going to test new products out. You're going to step into new technologies. You're going to be thrown on different stages and different
Yeah.
circles. And that conversation of, am I worthy? Like, should I even be here? I promise you, it still comes up. Like it still comes up. Your ability to shift out of it is a lot faster as you do the internal work, right? But it still triggers, it still happens. You still have the question. Your ability to hold that and to say, like, I love that I'm challenging myself. I love that I am pushing myself to say, am I worth this? And I also know that I am. Right. And your ability to switch out of that and your ability to have that internal conversation to say, those types of things will get faster. So it still happens as you get older, but older in your career, but it shifts. You can shift it faster. But in the beginning, um, I will say from an intellectual standpoint, if you are feeling the imposter syndrome, the most common, the best piece of advice I can give you is to do two things. One, to get the data for yourself, to go out there and to say, if I feel like I'm not a good life coach, or I feel like I'm not a good health coach, it's like, one, define what good means, because the more you say good and generic and say, I'm not a good coach, you're never going to have the data to show whether you are or not. So define, what does a good coach look like to you? What's the transformation you actually want to get someone? Is it they're going to lose weight? Is it they're going to wake up in the morning and feel proud of themselves and get dressed and love their body? Like, start defining that for yourself. And it may be a list of 50 things, right? Like it doesn't need to be one thing, but when you can start defining it and putting actual words to the transformation or result you're going to get people, then you can test it, right? Then you can get 3 free pro bono clients and say, these are the transformations or results I want to know I can get people. So then go test a few people and see, if you ask them at the very end, what was your experience here? Like, what did you feel like there was any transformations? Can you describe them in 3 tangible ways? Was there any results that I don't know that you walked away with? That is such an incredible piece. We don't know whether we are being beneficial to people or not often, because we don't ask them, right? We don't ask them the question, what are 3 tangible results you've gotten from our coaching session? And you're like thinking about that coaching session, and they're like, you don't understand, when I got off that coaching session, I went to go reach for another coffee and throw some cream and sugar in it, but I didn't, because you taught me that one tool about asking, is this for fun or is this fuel? And I asked myself that, and all of a sudden I felt like I could do it. Like, I can do this, right? So you don't know that until you ask them to reflect back and give them, what are your 3 tangible results, right? So from an imposter syndrome standpoint, it is really boils down to action, creates clarity. But if you want to give yourself a system to do that, like define what the transformation or result is that you want to give people, not what you can, not what you know, what you want to give people. What do you want to give them? Right. And then go and test it out on 3 people. Right. Like that's the best piece of, I feel like systematic, like intellectual checking the box of that side of imposter syndrome for coaches.
Mm, so good. And some of the other comments are around feeling confident to do it, but not knowing how to get the clients. And you have so many beautiful things that are a part of your process. One of them is your awesome podcast. And I'm curious for you, what is, for lack of a better word, your funnel? How do you move people through? When I'm saying funnel, I don't mean email sequence. I just mean a business funnel. Where do you see the most lead generation happening for you in your business? Is it through Instagram? Is it through word of mouth? Is it through listeners of your podcast? How do you continuously see more clients coming through your pipeline?
Yeah. So, I mean, my podcast is absolutely it shortens the sales cycle for me, basically. So, the way I get new people into my funnel is by like going on your podcast and reaching out, and extending myself to different audiences that are like-minded audiences, right? So that is how I build the funnel, is by doing that slowly but surely. It's reaching out to people that have podcasts, because a lot of my coaches are podcast listeners, right? So that's a really great medium for me. But once I get those people, I have a way to nurture them when they come in and they learn of me, right? Like they'll go binge listen to 10 of my podcasts, and then they'll be like, that's my person, or that's not my person. Like, that's real nice, Kelsey. Like, you're not my person. Or like, oh, that's the one. Like, this is the coach I've been looking for, right? So the sales cycle is so much shorter. It doesn't take a long time to nurture. But I also do, very much like you, my personality on my podcast is like, what you see is what you get, right? So I'm incredibly honest, incredibly vulnerable. And I think that makes for such a quicker connection, because there's a trust that's built instantly. Like, it's not a really scripted podcast. Like, it's me kind of talking from my gut and my heart. So that, it absolutely is what works for me in my business now. But I will caution brand new coaches. I believe there's a phase 1, a phase 2, and a phase 3 to a coaching business. Phase 1 is confirming you can get people that transformation or result, right? So phase 1 often is 3 to 5 pro bono clients that you are checking the box saying, I have been able to get them results, right? You're validating your ability to get results, right? So that's phase 1. And you can move at these at the speed of light, or you could take years in different phases, right? So then phase 2 is getting 3 to 5 paying clients, right? So phase 2 is really validating the offer and the price point. So getting really comfortable with that brings up a whole new set of issues, right? But what you want to do is you want to confirm this transformation and result that I'm getting people is worth people putting their credit card down. And I will tell you, there's very few things in the world not worth that, right? But you want to validate that for yourself. Like, that is your focus. So your focus is 3 to 5 paying clients, right? So that's phase 2. Then phase 3 is where you grow and expand and you build your funnel, right? That's where you book out your business, is in phase 3. And that's where you truly focus on the lead magnet, the email list, and the podcast. Like, that's my funnel. My main places I work with people are, and I get my clients, is through my podcast and my email list, right? And I nurture them in that way. But a lot of times people jump to phase 3, right? They jump to phase 3 and they're like, how do I get my email list? But I haven't had clients. And it's like, oh, because we're not going on phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So as a coach, my recommendation is to just acknowledge what phase you're in. And then know, in order to move on from that phase, you really want to check that box of 3 to 5 clients with transformation, 3 to 5 clients for being paid, and then move on to booking the business out.
I love so much that you're saying this, because in Made to Do This, as everybody here can speak to, early on in the program, we have people put offers out. And it's sort of like, hang on, you haven't taught me how to build an email list. You haven't taught me how to build out my Instagram. You haven't taught me how to build a podcast and all the marketing. It's like, we have to get proof of concept. We have to figure out what the heck this thing is, because the podcast you create should lead to that offer. There should be something about that leads you to the offer that you know is validated. And so as uncomfortable as it is, we want to, early on in Made to Do This, give you that scary opportunity to do things for free, to do things for $5, to do things in a sense where you can just go ahead in the world and start to give of yourself things and see if it works. And what I see is exactly what you said, is there's so much online that's like, let me show you how to build a business, when what they should be saying is, let me show you how to scale an existing business.
Yes.
If you have an existing business, here's how you scale it, right? But what's amazing is skipping over the proof of concept, which no business would ever do. And once you have a proof of concept, not only do you start making money right away, you start getting clients right away, which then takes the pressure off this podcast magically being the first thing that generates the $1. You have money coming in. And then I do want everyone to hear, because this week in Made to Do This, we are talking about podcasting and how essential that can be to building out and scaling a business. And Kelsey loves podcasting for that reason, and for so many other reasons, so much so that she actually was teaching people podcasting. And we even discussed like doing podcasting stuff together, because she said it is such an incredible piece of how you nurture and reduce the time it takes, because the trust and the intimacy. So I want everybody to hear that. And then really also take the overwhelm, shake it off, because that doesn't have to be a forever process. When she said, go ahead and give a few free pro bono sessions, start to see who you like working with and what kinds of coaching you like to do, that could happen in a month cycle, in a 2-month cycle. And then
that could happen tomorrow.
Right.
Like you could pick out 3 people, you could text them, you could reach out today, you could get 3 free pro bono things tomorrow, ask them, hey, how was this experience? What were your results? And check that box. There's a lot of you in here that may not even need to do that, because you've already validated. You've been working for years with people getting them results. You're like, dude, like phase 1, check. Like I have worked with people already. I've had that conversation. So as long as you can check that box, then you go over and you go to phase 2. Now you work on that offer. You work on that pricing. You work on validating 3 to 5 paying clients, right? So it's like, you just need to check that box for yourself. And then you just ignore. The problem is when you don't acknowledge what phase you're in, you try to do 17 phases at once.
Yep.
And it's overwhelming and it's exhausting, and you second guess yourself. Absolutely. Of course it is. So it's like, acknowledge the phase you're in, solve for that phase. And if you want to expedite and solve that phase tomorrow, like go for it. Solve that phase and then move on, but one thing at a time, right?
And what's interesting is, and this is a good place to sort of be rounding out the conversation, is phase 1 of the pro bono offer, where we begin, and sort of then the scaling of it. Those 2 things people get excited about, but asking to be paid, this is where we fall apart. And it's almost like this is where we quit too soon, or we start before we've even started. We stop before we've even started. So what can you tell us, Kelsey, about how to open up our mouth and say, this is my offer and this is what it costs? Because I will see people either focus so much on that email list, right? So they're not even in the validation part. They want to know all the tricks to online marketing, right? But we don't, or they're for years on the phone late at night, offering themselves to people at church, to other people that they know. They're giving and giving. And that middle zone, ooh, it's just a flyover, right? Yeah. So how do we stop the resistance once and for all and find a way in to doing that, which is offering and being paid? Because that's what's ultimately going to be what creates this and makes it a business, is it not?
Yeah.
Right.
And The reason phase 2 is 3 to 5 paying clients is because those are the hardest, just so you know. Like, it's not the hardest because people don't wanna pay you, it's hard because we make it hard, and we all of a sudden and every new phase you go into business, and Kathy and I have learned this as we up level, like, a whole new set of questions about yourself and the money and what you're capable of doing, like, they are going to be triggered, and as someone who is teaching themselves to not only be an entrepreneur, but to follow their gut more, to say yes to when there's a calling, you're going to meet those pieces of resistance. Like they're going to show up for you. So I think that just knowing that that is normal, knowing that we all have that, I think is really important. And knowing that if you figure out how to solve it for this pricing piece, you are doing yourself such a service because you're going to need to know how to solve it for any tough things that come up in life, any questions that come up about yourself, right? So for me, pricing and making doing those first paid offers, the big piece of it for me was letting go of expectation, like letting go of someone having to say yes in order for it to be validated, right? Like when I look at my list, I used to create a yes no list, and I used to tell myself I needed to get 10 no's before I got one yes. I needed 10 people to turn me down with my offer till I got one yes. Because when I went into pitching myself or saying, hey, here's my services and here's my costs, and someone said no, it was like I was expecting everyone to say yes. So a no helped. It hurt so bad. It was like pure rejection. So I had to change my mindset and really buffer it. And I was like, I'm going to go in with 10 no's, and I'm just going to learn how to have the conversation, right? Like I'm just going to start learning how to have a conversation about money, and then allow for one yes out of 10 no's. So I would start literally a Google Doc, and I would put a name in, and I'd be like, cool, like you need to get 10 more of these until you've earned a paying client, right? Now, the reality is when you do really good discovery call conversations, the conversion rate is 50%, right? Like I don't like to always tell people that because I'm like, I don't want you to think it's 50-50 when you first start, because you need to learn how to feel comfortable having the conversation. But
Yep.
eventually, you talk to two people on a discovery call, one is going to sign up every single time. So if you want 5 clients this month, you got to set up 10 calls. That's like 2 or 3 calls a week, right? Like, so it's very, very easy to eventually do. But if you're having a hard time getting on the phone, just set yourself up with that yes, no list, right? And then show up. The other piece to this is the thing that you want to be able to do is you want to show up and tell them what the problem is you solve and focus there, right? You focus on where they're at, what their life is. I have a very clear discovery call script as well, right? Like you want to focus on where they're at and how you can help them get to the next place, right? And that's the bulk of the conversation. So you're holding the space in those discovery calls when you're bringing people on for 20 minutes to see if it's a right fit. You're holding space for them. That's their first aha experience. We forget how many people don't have that space held for them. So when you hold that space for them and then you say, where do you really want to go? What's the true thing that you want to get to? And here's how I can help you. Then the conversation about pricing is literally about 3% of the entire conversation, right? It's like, okay, we've acknowledged this. This is it. Okay. So here's what a relationship together would look like. We'd hop on the phone 2 to 3 times a month. I work with my clients in 3 months packages. It's $1,000 a month. So you can pay 3,000 up front, or it's, $1,000 I can bill you at the beginning of each month. And then you will walk away in 3 months and we will feel clear on the direction of your career, or we will finally feel confident about what you're going to do for the next 20 years of your life here. Like that is our goal. Does that sound exciting to you? Right. And expect 9 no's. And when you get the first yes, it's going to be like, okay, let's do it. Right. So I think that's the mentality you go into with it. Right. And then the clarity around the problem you're going to help them solve is truly the focus, not the conversation about pricing.
Oh my God, it's so brilliant. I really hope everybody just opened the door to your heart during that, because it all boils down to a fear of rejection. It all boils down to a fear of rejection, which is so primal, and it makes so much sense. And the little kid that we were, that we still are, was rejected in so many ways. And it was so painful that you have built a life around I will never feel rejected. And one way I won't feel rejected is I won't reach my arms out too often for things. I'll just say the whole like, I'm fine. And if I do want something, I'll be so sure before I even put it out that there's no way I could be rejected, or else I won't put it out. Or if I do put it out and I even smell rejection, I'll just stop immediately what I'm doing. And when you think about allowing rejection to define your life and what you wind up doing with your life, it's completely illogical. And when we just hold space, like, could I be rejected? Could I wind up handling it if I was? Yeah, I'm going to survive it. Noah Kagan has this thing where he says, every single time he goes to Starbucks or any store, the Gap or whatever, maybe this is pre-COVID because he was out and about more. He goes, I just asked this person at the sales counter, hey, can you give me a 10% discount? He goes, because I want to practice being rejected. Because of course they're not going to give me a 10% discount. I'm just asking for it. He goes, and they look at, and he's like a multimillionaire. He's invested in all these big companies and everything else. And he goes, but I do it every day. I'm like, hey, give me 10% off that latte. What do you say? And the woman's like, no. And he goes, once in a while they say yes to me. He goes, but I'm not doing it for the 10% off. I don't need $1.50 off, whatever the thing is. I want to practice handling rejection from a person. And he goes, and it doesn't matter if I get rejected for that 10% off, or if I get rejected from a big corporate client, it feels the same. I feel weird. I don't feel like I belong. He goes, but I just want to get used to it. And I was like, oh my God, I can get myself getting red in the cheeks, asking the lady at Starbucks for 10% off.
Like I'm a little sweaty right now.
I feel it right now. I'm like, oh, I'm afraid, it's scary. She's going to say no to me. But that's a fascinating thing, to live your life showing yourself that you can tolerate being rejected, and therefore moving on from there. And Kelsey, you're so graceful, and you're such a great mom, and you're such a great wife. So to think of you having also the stamina and I'm going to actually make a list, and when I get to 10 no's, I will consider the yes one of those yeses. I wouldn't intuitively think that you would be able or sort of geared to showing up in that way, because you're like this lovely, sweet, feminine. And then it's like, no, but this is part of what it is. And then, of course, I feel a lot of stability when I'm around you. I feel a lot of grounded energy. And it makes sense that you could handle that and be like, okay, I could smile my way through it, and almost like you said, expect it. Like, go in with that expectation. And as you said, when you're having the call and you're making it about this person and where they're at and what they want, such a tiny sliver of the call is about you at all.
Oh yeah.
And a sliver of that sliver is about the price. So again, it's really about, could I energetically give to this person right now? And would that feel good? And you guys, this is what I did coming up, as a songwriter. I used to, like, my hand would shake, and I would call ad agencies, or I'd call Paramount, or call NBC, and I got rejected constantly. Like, who's this songwriter calling us at the office? Who does she think she is? And I would just reframe, well, what if I could be a bright spot in somebody's day and have a conversation about what they're working on and what the story is they're telling, and is there some way that I can support? And a lot of times it would be like a no. And sometimes people were downright rude, and it was worth it. And I used to say, would I allow how uncomfortable I feel right now to stand in between my entire career? No, wasn't willing to do that. And then, this is still sitting on my desk under all these books, but like 3 years later, there was this like full page article, right, about me. There I am with my skirt. This is how it all started. And I started making hundreds of thousands of dollars. And when the editor of Billboard was interviewing me, he's like, so what's your strategy? I'm like, I pick up the phone and I call people who totally don't want me to call them, don't expect me to call them. And then I make relationships with them, and I make friends with them, and I get to know what they're working on. And then they give me these opportunities. Like, when I say opportunities, I mean 1 out of 47 people would be like, sure, like here's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Here's an opportunity to try to be a part of what we're doing. And then I saw that just worked out when we started the podcast. You know how many people said no to being a guest? For every 16 people who said no or who didn't reply or told us never to write them again, one person said sure. I was like, okay. And so I'm just sort of used to being rejected, you know?
Yeah. But you know,
Okay.
it's so interesting. It's less about the hustling, and you're kind of alluding to this, but it's more about the work. When you accept that like the work is part of the journey, like it becomes less about the expectations or the end results. Like when I started my podcast, I was literally like, I'm going to hit 50, I'm going to do 50 episodes until I listen or critique myself. And you know, everyone is like, well, maybe you should. And I'm like, no, like, I know I can't. Like, my insecurities will trigger so much. I will dissect what I'm doing wrong. I will get into my head and I won't do what I really want to do, which is podcast from my heart and be really
Yeah.
helpful and have these
Yep.
audio files my little girls can listen to, that is their mom navigating her way through life. Like that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be like that. And I knew that I would be so insecure about it unless I got through like X amount of numbers. So it was just like the yes, no. Like I will be so insecure on those pricing phone calls, like those discovery calls, until I'm not, right? Until I go through the work of recognizing my value, of I get through the kind of formula of the discovery call. I get comfortable. I realize how much coffee I should have or not have before the call, right? Like there's so many things you want to realize about yourself. You recognize like, if I don't enjoy this part of the journey, if I don't enjoy the work that goes into this, I'm not going to enjoy anything in my whole career, right? So you start to take pressure off the expectation and lean into the fact that this truly is about loving the journey and figuring out how you as a person, based off who you are, how you were raised, your personality, like what parameters do you need to put in place in order to start loving the journey? Do you have to listen to I have to listen to a Macklemore song every single time before I shoot for a podcast, right? Like what's your thing that you need to do to enjoy the journey? Just start putting in some little systems for that and you will blink, be a year further down the line with so much more action being taken. Like it's just, I feel like and that's something you do so well, Kath, too. Like you are
Thanks.
so naturally good at enjoying the journey and just
It's
connecting
fun.
and being like, we're just
Yeah.
having conversations. And that is the magic of like what makes it enjoyable, you know?
Yeah. So thank you for that. But that's so beautiful. And I was just listening to Esther Hicks again. She always talks about, several of the same principles over and over. And one of those things is like segment intending. Like your day is made up of different segments. Like here's where a segment could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour. You're having lunch with so and so, that's a segment. You're doing, this particular call, that's a segment. But the segment intending, it's also similar to any of the work Jen Sincero talks about or Joe Dispenza talks about with the beginning your day, setting that intention of how do you want to feel. And it's good to do that segment intending where you say, like, I'm about to get on some calls. What do I love about this? Well, I love that I get to feel and grow through contrast. I love that I get to feel contrast and notice that I can actually have fun with this. I love that actually strengthens me. What else do I love about this? I love that I get to right now on the spot go do the thing I want to do anyway, which is hold space for people. I get clear about that, like just setting the intention of what you want it to feel like, and then we do become a magnet, right? We calibrate to the intention rather than to the situation. And
100%.
that's so important. Kelsey, this was such gold. I want all of you to follow her. You'd be benefited to follow her because not only is she such a lovely person, but she talks a lot about coaching and teaching people how to become coaches. And her podcast is fantastic. And her Instagram is great. So just to say thank you to her and to continue the relationship with her, I would say take a screenshot of this, post it in your Instagram stories, and tag her at Kelsey Murphy and let her know that you enjoyed this or one thing about this that felt helpful or like an eye opener. And I will also repost if you happen to tag me as well to give Kelsey some more exposure and love. Not that you need it, but it's fun to just keep putting your energy around because it's such good energy. And let us know where's the best place for us to go stay part of your world.
Yeah, I think you just said it. Come say hello on Instagram. You can DM me, and I'm happy to chat and connect. And yeah, you could go to my website, kelseymurphy.com, but really whatever you feel called to do. I know you guys are doing such beautiful work here. So I want you to, as you know, I'm a big believer in simplifying. So stay the course and stay focused and go deep with Kath. She's incredible. I could say a million things to combat and top off like all the things that you're saying about me. I just love you. But I look forward to connecting with everybody further and the long journey and the many, many years that we will all hopefully be together with each other.
Thank you so much. You're such a delight. And thank you everyone for being so involved in this conversation and all your comments. I was watching and she was watching, and it was so cool to have such an interactive, dynamic conversation. I hope that you all take one thing away. And since Kelsey, you did talk so much about that, why don't you tell us one thing that you're taking away, one thing that you're reflecting on that you might now take with you or do? What's coming up for you?
I just had a personal moment in the last 24 hours. We just launched one of my coaching programs and I put my first module out. And, you're always nervous about whether it's going to be helpful or beneficial. And it's funny after having this conversation, and Kathy, you and I have an ability to go deep and clear really quickly. But I'm remembering that that we all second guess ourselves, right? And so trusting in the value that I have where I am today, because there's so many things I want to do tomorrow and the next day and the next week. And I have all these dreams and plans, but I sometimes forget you bring value just by showing up as who you are today in this moment, not when you get that certification, not when you get that client, not when you get those skills, just as you are. There's so much value that you can bring. And I'm kind of taking my own medicine with that. I'm recognizing in this beautiful conversation that there is so much value that I can bring just by showing up today. So
That's
I appreciate
amazing.
you giving that to me.
That's such a good thing for everybody to hear. And there are so many cool takeaways. Sarah said 10 before a yes, 10 no's before a yes. Authenticity. Christine said one takeaway. There were millions of takeaways. But I hope that if you do want to be coaching, that you will take from the steps that she was sort of laying out and go ahead and start offering if you haven't in that phase one. And if you have, maybe get on some of those discovery calls, hold the space and offer your price. It'd be so fun to hear that you guys went ahead and did some of that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Let us know if you do anything, even if you just start thinking oh, these are some results I can get, go for it.
Awesome. Kelsey, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for this time today. It was so wonderful.
Thanks, Kat.
Talk